Hi everyone,
Nice.
I'm Juliet. I'm community manager for Anker SOLIX. I'm here today with Chuck Cassady, longtime friend of the brand and really a SOLIX and solar panel battery backup expert. So
Yeah.
really excited to have him here. This is a live Q&A, so we'll be looking for your questions in the YouTube chat. Between Chuck and I, we'll either have the answer or I will promise to get it back to you later. You'll see those answers if we don't have one in the Facebook group for the F3800. Today our focus is on the SOLIX F3800 and its associated accessory, the the uh,
Yeah,
the SOLIX Home Power Panel, which is a little bit different
that's
from the
right.
Home Power Kit, and we'll talk about that. So we have Chuck's brain for 30 minutes. I'm going to set a timer, and we're not going to
Okay.
waste another second here. Chuck, let's start with do you have anything you want to add to that introduction?
No, I think that sounds fair. Yeah, you know, if you're new to me, I have been making a living building off-grid machines and the systems that go in them for almost a decade now. And for the last 2 years, I've been working with Anker, and I've got a lot of experience with all of the SOLIX line of products. And currently, have been using the F3800 in my own home, along with the home power panel. And we also have an F3800 here at the shop that we use for backup if and when we need it here. So we've been messing around with this stuff. Oh, and my bus, that green bus back there, the electrical system on that has just been an F2000 for the last year while I've been living in there, and it's been under construction. So I've got some time under my belt. I I live with them every day.
That's true. You do. You have a breadth of experience, and I'm really glad
Oh
to hear
yeah,
that you're so
definitely.
knowledgeable about the F3800 because I know that we still get a lot of questions, especially since this sort of segment of the industry is kind of new. That more and more
Yeah,
people are catching on to. I want a battery backup just in case. I want to be off grid is sort of like the more extreme sort of end of it. Most people are looking for. I want
yeah,
something just in
totally,
case.
totally.
And the other use case that I see in the group is I need something for my RV. So you really are like the perfect person for this. I'm so grateful that you make the time for us. So I
Yeah, no
kind of want to
problem.
start out while we're waiting for a couple more questions. I see you, Charles. Thank
Yeah.
you. We'll get to that question because I think it's a good one.
Oh
What?
yeah, that is a good question there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what's been your favorite use for the F3800 so far, Chuck?
Well, I think the best use for it, for a lot of people, is for a whole home backup system. And right now, so I just installed the home power panel at my house in Denver, which, for people who don't know what it is it's basically like a really advanced automatic transfer switch. But I mean, it really goes beyond that. It basically plugs in between a panel on your home that's going to be powered. That's all of the things that you want backup loads on, all of your main loads. And it goes between that and your home's main breaker panel. And using these sensors, these current transformers, it can automatically make sure that it's only recharging its battery when electricity is cheap, because a lot of people are on time of use metering, where electricity is cheap during the middle of the day and expensive when everyone gets home from work and during peak demand. And what it will do, which is really cool, is every day during peak hours, it'll power your home or the critical loads that are plugged into it off of its built-in battery. And then in the middle of the night or during the day, if you have solar panels that are making electricity, it will replenish itself off of the cheap electricity. And so it allows you to have this device that gives you like the whole home backup capabilities that a generator would, except instantaneously because it doesn't have to turn on. And every day it can save you, I mean, depending on your home, it's not a huge amount, but it does it every single day. So like over the course of the year, mine's going to save me, I don't know, maybe 1 or 200 bucks, which doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot better than a generator that's just sitting there doing nothing. And it has this really cool app that lets you see, how much solar you're making, how much power you're using, how much money you're saving. And I just think that's really cool. I love that. I love that use.
Yeah, eventually you'll have your F3800 paid for. And this is a good time for me to say that,
Yeah.
we have them on sale right now through the 18th, and my note here
Oh,
says it
cool.
is $27.99, usually $39.99. I got to plug it,
Yeah.
working for the brand, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a lot off.
yeah, it's like $1,200, and then there are deals that extend to the home power kit, and then the smart home panel.
Yeah.
What you just described was the
Lem-
smart home panel setup. Can you talk to us about the home power kit and how it's different? Your key word.
I don't know what the
It's
I
your
don't know
key
the
word
difference
is
between the
transfer
home
switch.
cat power kit.
Yeah,
Oh, transfer switch. Well,
yeah. So
yeah,
instead of the
so
smart home
the home
panel, you have the transfer switch.
yeah, so the transfer switch is, it's what it's, I guess you would say, more old school. It's just a simple mechanical device, that is going to be, I mean, you're not going to get the same level of features like I was just talking about,
Right. It's
but
manual.
you're going to, yeah, it's manual, just like you would have with a generator, but uh, it still gives you the functionality of being able to use it as a backup solution for your home.
It's kind
If
of like
if
on
that's
The
what your main use
Simpsons
is.
when Homer can like shove that switch up and down when he's at work. It's that,
Yeah,
but
totally. It's
with
that.
the
It's
cloud.
definitely more manual.
I
And
would,
I think did did we have a video? I think we had a video. I think it was just a video of me installing just a regular transfer switch, and I'm not sure if that's the one that they use in the home power kit or not. Um, but
yeah,
there are videos from Anker on how
it's
to
not a
install those.
proprietary. The transfer switch is not
Yeah,
proprietary on that. We do sell it, but it's not proprietary. The
yeah,
smart home panel,
yeah.
it is. Um, I would like to take a moment and let my dog introduce himself. He is
Great,
barking, which he
great,
never
great.
does, but he's, like that. Hey, let's jump into, I really like Charles' question here. He's a member of the Facebook
Yeah,
group
it's a good
that I
one.
moderate, so I want to make sure we get to that one top of the block here. How would you compare this to a
Yeah,
Tesla Powerwall? I'll tell you, Chuck, my answer is, well, I wouldn't, because it's just a different
yeah,
situation. However,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna have a great answer for that.
Well, there's a couple of differences. I mean, the biggest difference is that the F3800 is much more consumer minded in terms of installing it into your home. Like, you could get the F3800 and you could get the home power kit. And honestly, that's stuff that if you're a competent DIYer, you can install yourself, even the home power panel. If you want to go with the Tesla Powerwall, I do believe you have to work with only their licensed installers.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a limiting factor. And of course, all that stuff has to be permitted and all of those things. So that's one big difference. The other big difference with the F3800 is that it's portable. So, you're going to spend a lot of money in a whole home backup power system. And if you want the ability to take that with you when you go camping, or maybe you've got, a hunting cabin or something off in the woods, you can take this, unplug it from your home, and take it with you and run a whole nother house, over there.
Is
And
that
that's, to
true?
me, that's like a huge advantage.
Well, it
Is
would
that
be for
true?
you.
Is Yeah,
That would be a
yeah,
big advantage
yeah,
for someone like you. Here's my question.
yeah. That would be for someone like me.
Is it
Yeah.
still portable
Um,
if I have the home power kit, if I have the home power panel? Is it as simple as
yes. If you
unplugging it and rolling it into my rig?
Yeah, yeah. So the home power panel is cool because if you're using that system, which is different than the home power kit, but the home power panel, it's just one cord that connects your Anker into that, the F3800. And
Okay.
so when you want to leave, you just unplug it. And what's cool is that the home power panel, it functions normally whether or not the F3800 is plugged in. So you don't have to have the F3800 hooked into your system for your home to function just as it always did before you installed this gear. And I did want to mention, when you said what the price was, the sale price right now, I want to put that in perspective, because the F3800 is a 6,000 watt inverter. It's got 3.8 kilowatt hours of lithium iron phosphate battery in it. and it's got a charge controller that can handle 2,400 watts of solar input.
Yep.
If I was designing a component-based system, right, and Anker doesn't make a component-based system, but the next, top tier brand that I would use, the money I would spend on components to build that system out of standalone hardware would be, I would be spending $2,700 just on the inverter, and it wouldn't be 240 volts. It would only be 120 volts. It
Right.
wouldn't have the ability to connect solar to it, and that wouldn't include a battery. So, I mean, that's kind of a ridiculously good price, I would say.
Why, thank you. Why,
Not,
thank you.
and I'm not even saying that just to give props to Anker, but like if you're considering a system, it's really going to be hard to beat that price point with those features, kind of no matter how you do it. So,
Yeah.
something to think about.
Yeah. Thanks for that perspective. We hear often enough, as we would just expect to, that that's quite a bit of money. And I always think people maybe don't
Yeah,
fully understand the value of the product or how flexible it is. And
yeah,
one of the things that really makes this product different is that you can add expansions, you can expand it to fit your need with expansion batteries. You can
yeah,
use the transfer switch, you can use the smart home power panel. You have some
yeah,
options there. So I think that is the key way that this really is differentiated from the Tesla Powerwall. We do have a
yeah.
Tesla Powerwall competitor now, and that's the SOLIX X1. It's new. That's a different chat, but we do have a
It's
Facebook
a
group
whole different
dedicated
animal.
to it. What's that?
Yeah, it's
It's
a whole
yeah,
different animal. That one.
it really is. I mean, what you're describing, Chuck, is something that when you sell your house, or I don't know, if you're a renter, you're moving, you can undo all of this and be get your deposit back or whatever. So
So, right, right. If you're a renter, yeah.
it's an investment that you can take with you and have that flexibility, and over
Mm-hmm.
time add additional wattage to your system. This is another important distinction for folks. If you're interested in the F3800 and you have existing solar panels, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You do need the home power panel for that connection to all work, though. You're not going to get that done with the transfer switch, and you're not going to get that done with just the F3800.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to really reap the benefits of the solar panels the way that you would with the home power panel, the smart home power panel. So, like, if you're just using a transfer switch and your home has built-in solar panels, you're not going to be able to take advantage of things like time of use or anything like that. And your
Mm-hmm.
Solix will never know if if the Solix is running the show, your solar panels aren't going to be benefiting the Solix if you connect them that way.
Right. So that's an important thing. If you have solar and you want to fold that into it, that's something to know. So Charles, take a look
Mm-hmm.
at the X1 and have fun with that.
Yeah.
I'll be in the group if you have questions there. All right, moving on. How heavy are the small units? Wolf Dog Buses would like to know. How heavy are the smaller units, and would they be a good fit for my weekender van? Which one would be best? I forget. I used to have this number on the top of my head, and maybe I have it
Yeah.
in notes here. How much the F3800 weighs of our portable units? It
Yeah.
is the heaviest. Um, the
Yeah.
F2000 is
The
78
F3800 is
pounds.
definitely the heaviest.
It's either 128 or 132 pounds. The F2000
Mm-hmm.
is 78 pounds. It's lithium iron,
Yeah.
not lithium ion. It's much heavier and
Right.
it's much more stable. Well, maybe I shouldn't say much more stable. It is more stable
It's
to be more
it's
stable.
definitely more stable, and it's not that much heavier, than a lithium ion bank. Like compared to a lead acid battery, it's still way, way, way lighter. But if I was looking for something for like weekend camping in a rig that doesn't have heavy, heavy big loads, like a van or something like that, I would stick with either the F2000, or I happen to have this with me. This is just the oops, here we go. This is the C1000, I believe.
Yes, it
And
is. We
this thing
released
is, I
that in
think,
November. And it too is
Yeah.
on sale, kids.
Oh, how much is this? Do you
Chuck,
know?
I can't know all of the things.
Well, here's what I love about this. This is a battery, an inverter, and a solar charge controller, and it's got USB ports on it. And the whole thing, I think it weighs under 35 pounds.
I think it's
And
28
I
pounds.
know that 28 pounds, there you go. So it weighs less than one battery would weigh. And at the time when it was released, that device cost less than one Battle-Born, lithium battery. Those were like $1,000. This was like $899, and it had almost the same capacity. Plus, it had the 1800-watt inverter and a solar charge controller that could accept up to 600 watts of panels. And it recharges in under an hour if you plug it into a wall outlet. So if you're just doing the weekender thing and your rig is small, I like that one. This is what I use to power my live streams if I'm outside or somewhere in the shop where I don't have power. They're really cool. The F3800 is awesome, but it is like a very powerful machine that would be better suited for like a Class A RV,
Yeah.
something that's got rooftop air conditioners, or I mean, that's whatever else big appliance you might have in your RV, but usually it's air conditioners is what that would be powering.
Yes. Yeah, I get that all the time. Will it power my air conditioner? Will it power my coffee
Mm-hmm.
maker? And this tells me a lot about people's
Yes.
priorities when they're camping.
Yeah,
Comfortable
I don't want to
and
be hot and I
caffeinated.
want my coffee.
Yes. Right now, since you asked, the C1000 is on sale for $649, which it's been
Wow.
retailing for
Wow.
$999. I want to mention
Yeah,
too, this
that's
has
cool.
2,600 watts of surge protection, has a surge pad on it, and
Oh, cool. Okay.
you didn't know that? It's the very last AC port to the right.
Oh, yeah, surge pad right there.
So much
That's why
value.
it has the 20 amp plug. So you can run a really big load off of that plug. I get it.
Right.
That's cool.
Right. Yeah.
That's
So
sweet.
you want to do some light welding? That might be able to handle it.
I've done it with that. Oh, I've done it with that one.
Boom.
Totally.
Boom. Yeah. So that's on sale through
um,
June 18th. Will we have other sales? Yes. Yes, we will, because we
yeah.
like to sell our things. I want to get into another question here. Hey,
Okay. Yeah.
Eric. Good to see my friend Eric in the chat. Thaddeus, since we started late, I want to make sure we get to your question. Just hold on until the end. Just kidding. Let's ask now. He's curious about the historical data for the F3800. Do you think it'll be available anytime soon? Well, I'd have to know more about what you mean by historical data. For sure, post that question with more detail in the group. I don't know, and I've only been with Anker like 15 months, so I don't know that, in my limited experience, we haven't released historical data. But I tell you what, if you have an idea of what you want, then I will run that up the flagpole and ask the powers that
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Next, free box of donuts with every ATS. Yes, that is in fact the promotion we actually ever talk about. But yeah, you'll get a free box of donuts, Eric. That's great. Um, yeah, Kels and Jay, look at that view. Thank you. I'm very proud of my offit. Oh, you meant Chuck. Gotcha.
I think they're talking about my view. No offense.
Fair. It's fair. How long is the warranty, and what level of battery degradation does it allow for? The warranty is 5 years. That is an industry leading standard right there. 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the second part of that question was, in what level of battery degradation does it allow for? We typically say in 10 years of like daily use, you'll experience 20% decrease in its capacity. Chuck might have a more elegant way of
Yeah.
sharing that. My dog really
That's
needs to be on
the
camera.
the way that they phrase that is it's after 3 to 4,000 cycles, charge cycles.
Full
And like
cycles.
to put that into perspective, yeah, to put that into perspective, that would be a full charge and discharge every day for 10 years, which is, you know, not likely to happen unless you're using it in a home power panel, the smart power panel configuration, where it is being charged and discharged every day. But even then, in those settings, you will typically say, hey, always save me 20 or 30% battery in case the power goes out. So cycle through the top 70, 80% of battery every day to save me money. And then if the power ever goes out, always save that reserve for me down the road. If you're not using it daily, I mean, this thing, the battery inside of it will probably outlive, I mean, a lot of your use case for it. I would be really curious, in 10 years, um, you know, in 10 years, a lot can change. And the thing that I wouldn't be worried about is the battery capacity on this. In my line of work, I'm more worried about me dropping it and breaking it because I'm reckless with my tools sometimes. But, I mean, you're not going to find a longer lasting battery chemistry publicly available right now in these types of products. And since Anker is using, the highest quality batteries that they can, the cells in the systems, and their BMSs, I know, are pretty conservative in terms of the operating parameters that they allow the batteries to function in.
Yeah.
So I would really expect you to get a ton of life out of your unit. And I mean, it's just the cycle count is so high. It's really not something I would be worried about.
In a full cycle, so folks know, is from 0 to 100%. I have these
Yeah.
devices. I don't have the F3800, but I have the F2000. I don't let it. I use it. I don't let it drop to 0. I don't keep it at 100.
Mm-hmm.
I really just manage that pretty solidly with this in the background of my life.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question, Charles. If not, hit me up in the group. Cece wants to know what was the price again. The price was for $27.99 for the F3800 through
Yeah.
June 18th, June, whatever I said earlier. Yeah, June 18th. That is correct, June 18th. And there are other deals when you bundle it. So that's just, the entry price is $27.99. It was it retails for $39.99. Hey,
Yeah. Which is
Jim.
that's really, really cheap for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you saying that. It's a really good value. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Jim Sipes is in the chat, and he is an
Yeah.
F3800 group favorite. This guy is like he went all in on the F3800. I actually tried to get him to do one of these chats with us because I think he has a ton of knowledge, but he comes to us with a question.
Yeah.
He has two F3800s with 4 batteries for each. Is it okay to charge the whole system to 100% off, to 100% and then shut it off completely and only turn it on when the power outage happens?
That's a good question, and it's like it's multi-pronged, just like the outlets we use. In general, if you're storing lithium iron phosphate batteries, which is what these are, for extended periods of time, the optimum storage percentage is not 100%. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you're going to be using this only for power outages, and you've got this large of a system, that would be something where if you're not having a power outage, for months and months on end, then I would definitely consider not storing them at 100% all the time. Now, for me, I am maybe a rule breaker, but like I end up using mine often enough that I charge them to 100%. And there's a 100% chance that I will use that device within a couple of weeks. And so I'm constantly using my devices. One thing about someone like you with such a big setup, and I'm curious, if you're using it just for backup power, it's like I would really look at using maybe the home power panel because you have such a big system that you could hook that into your home. The home power panel is a few $100, but that system is so big that it would give you the ability to do automatic transfer when the power outage happens. And if you're on time of use billing with your utility company, it could be saving you. I mean, you've got a big enough battery bank that it could be saving you potentially a substantial amount of money depending on what your rates are. And in that case, your batteries are just always being, charged and discharged, and what you're storing them at doesn't really matter. But if
Right.
you're looking for something that, you're going to charge up and let sit for months and months before you use it, I would consider putting that into account, you know, when you're sizing that, and maybe buy a little extra battery capacity so that your system isn't at 100 while it's waiting for you, you know, it's just under that. But you know, there's a lot of nuance to that, and honestly, that's a question that, you know, an engineer could really dig in with you and tell you like specifically what the trade-offs are in terms of how much storing them at 100% for long periods of time affects the degradation of the battery cells. But I would get the smart home power panel if I was you, because that would put your system to work paying itself off, um, and give you a few more features that I think would be really great.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I will say that typically, Jim, we recommend that people, when they're going to store their power stations, that they charge it up to 100, put it in the closet, wherever, and let it discharge to 30% and then charge it up, top it up again. But I think for the system that you've described having, that's probably not really like doable. Plus, I don't know that you're going to know that with your expansion batteries. Um, I don't know what the app, you know, tells us about what's going on with the expansions. Do you know, Chuck? Do you have any expansions?
I have only had expansion batteries on an F2000 system so far, but we did work with some when I was doing an install out there. And I believe that it would fill up one battery first, and then like the built-in battery, and then fill up the next one. So, you know, getting them all down to an even 80% might be
Yeah.
a bit of a challenge.
Yeah,
But
I
if the power
agree.
outages are frequent enough for you, I wouldn't even worry about it. You know,
Right.
it's like if you have a power outage every couple weeks, like, you know, I would not worry about it, and I would keep them at 100%.
That's how I think about it too. Then it's like you're always
Yeah.
ready, and you know
Yeah,
you
totally.
paid for it to have that security, and
Hmm.
that's part of what you've invested in. And so I really appreciate that people want to optimize their batteries. Like they want to guess what, our time is up. I really appreciate people want
Oh,
to optimize that, but
yeah.
to me it's probably just not worth the brain power, and I'm a person who loves spreadsheets. So I'm going to take one more question and then we're going to wrap it up, but I really like this question. This is a great one to end on too. ITS, are there any new accessories on the horizon for the F3800? EV car charger accessory, vehicle DC alternator charging, items beyond solar panels that can keep your F3800 charged while out? I have an answer to one of those three questions, and this is it. The EV car charger accessory, we're
Yeah.
releasing it. I hear we're releasing it this summer. To be perfectly transparent, I haven't heard a whole lot internally about when that's going to happen. So that's a great bug in my ear to think about, you know, who I go harass through our chat system in the office. So that is coming. Vehicle DC alternator charging. I don't know enough about what that is. Do you know, Chuck?
Yeah, I don't think that that's something Anker is planning on doing for the F3800.
Is
So
that
basically what the question is there charging off of the vehicle's 12-volt alternator while the vehicle is running to recharge the F3800? And that's not something that's available on that unit. You could
but it is
you
on the
could get
F2000
clever,
though.
and it is on the F2000. It is on the
It's
F2000,
not on
but
the
on the
F3800.
no, it's not on the F3800. Yeah.
Wow.
And really, even though it is on the F2000, it's a slow recharge rate.
Yeah.
Like the maximum output of a car port, you know, what we used to call cigarette lighters, that's only 10 amps at 12 volts, and that's only going to be 120 watts. So if you're trying to fully recharge even an F2000, and you can only pull that much out of that, that's going to take you like 20 hours, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not a great solution. If you want that, you're going to have to get a little more creative and do some engineering hacks, and that's really just a byproduct of how big the batteries are on these. It's not like there's a defect in how they're made that prevents them from charging any faster. It's just the battery capacity is so large that rates of recharge that used to be fine back in the days of golf cart batteries and stuff, we're talking about battery banks that are the same physical size but have 2, 3, 4 times the usable capacity
Yeah.
that we're trying to put back in there. So the recharge rates are just going to be a lot higher. And that kind of, to me, is a good reason to, when you're shopping around and considering these, if you want the ability to charge off of a vehicle alternator when you're driving, my recommendation is to buy a cheap inverter that you wire to your vehicle's battery directly, and then plug the AC cord of your F3800 or F2000 or whatever into that inverter, and that will let you recharge at as high of a rate as you tell it, because you can tell it in the app how many watts it's allowed to pull from the source that it's plugged into for recharging. So you could go out to Harbor Freight, buy a little 800-watt or 1,000-watt inverter, wire that to your vehicle's battery, and recharge your F2000 or F3800 off of that. And in the drop-down menu in the app, you can say max, AC input limit 800 watts or 1,000 watts, and it will know to only pull that much. So if you want that solution and to actually do it quickly, you're going to have to get a little bit custom. But that's a limitation that's common on a lot of these devices, simply because to do a direct DC to DC charge requires stepping up the voltage, and there's limitations on how much you can take out of the car in the first place.
Thanks so much, everyone. Oh, I see Dan replied. His comment is, yes, the F3800 app does tell you what each battery
Each battery, yeah.
extension battery, has remaining in charge. So that's a really nice feature. Thanks
Yeah.
everyone for joining the chat. See you in the Facebook F3800 group. I do my best to answer as many questions as I can, and when I can't answer questions, I try to run them up the flagpole, and sometimes Chuck will even chime in and answer and I trust his judgment and his knowledge of the product he uses. So you're in good hands.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chuck.
Totally. And it's worth mentioning too, before we get out of here, like the software side of all of these Anker products is always being developed, which is a really great feature. But like a lot of features that, we're answering questions about or that don't exist yet that you want to exist, they may come in the future.
Yeah.
So like if there is a feature that's missing that is preventing you from feeling like this is a good fit for you, go into those Facebook groups and ask, because it might be something that's already under development and is going to come out in a firmware update. So, and that's just a good point of reference to know, like, these things are always changing and Anker is always improving them. So I know I've experienced that directly. The F2000 functions a lot better for me now than it did when I got it, a year and a half ago.
Good plug for the firmware updates.
Yeah,
I am constantly
it's
working
key.
our team internally, like, let me know what these firmware updates are, what they are.
Yeah.
Our developer notes are very skinny, and it's just not it's not ideal for a consumer. So I am really pushing
Mm-hmm.
that just as hard as I can, because it is important that people
Yeah.
know and they understand what they're getting, because you've
Yeah.
invested in it. So you ought to
Yeah.
understand how the value is being improved.
Yeah,
Firmware's how it
that's a
does.
big, to me, that's a big selling point of the Anker stuff.
Yeah. Hey, thanks everyone. Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah.
Enjoy that little bit of sunshine I see you have in Washington right now.
Yeah, I know. I got to go get some before it goes
Go
behind the
get some
clouds.
sunshine. Thanks everyone. Appreciate your time and
All
energy.
righty.
See you in the group.
All right. See you later.
Bye.